morning, Your Honor. My name is Evan Long, and I will be making the opening remarks for the prosecution this morning. Along with my colleague, Justin Smith, I will be representing the state in the case of the people of the state of New York v. Sandy Myers. The case being brought before the court this morning is a simple case of greed and lawlessness. The trial will bring into examination the events that occurred on August 20th, 1992. On that night, Leslie Johnson was walking home alone from a late-night movie at the Palace Theater on Citrus Street. She ducked into a covered walkway to avoid becoming wet from the heavy rain that was falling at the time. The walkway was unlit and it was difficult to see what was going on around her from where she was. As she was wading out the rain, she felt a stone in one of her shoes and bent down to remove it before resuming her walk. As she was kneeling down to remove the stone, she was hit on the shoulder by a blunt instrument. While she was on the ground in agonizing pain, her attacker stole Leslie's knapsack and ran out of the covered walkway onto Citrus Street, running east. You will hear testimony from Leslie confirming these facts. You will see the effects of this vicious attack on the victim from the medical records of her hospital visit following the events of August 20th. The heinous act of violence and theft perpetrated against the victim, Leslie Johnson, shows an element of greed in the attacker's behavior that outweighs any respect for the law or human life. When Miss Johnson witnessed her attacker escaping with her knapsack, she forced herself after the individual. While chasing after her attacker, she began yelling, "Stop, thief! Help! Police!" The thief who stole her possessions did not stop, but continued to flee the scene of the crime. They fled down 9th Avenue, heading south, and then ran into Founders Park. The events of this chase were witnessed by Lee Peterson, who beheld the chase from the time that they left the walkway until the time that they entered the park. He will testify that he heard Leslie yell for the attacker to stop, and clearly viewed the attacker while they passed through a streetlight. After the chase progressed into the park, Ms. Peterson will testify that she ran to the nearest payphone and while approaching the phone saw a police car on routine patrol. She yelled to the officer, Officer Tucker, who aimed a searchlight towards the east along Citrus Street. Officer Tucker will testify that as he aimed his searchlight, an individual ran out of the park and yelled, "Don't shoot," even though the police did not currently have firearms drawn. This person was identified by Leslie Johnson, who had emerged from the park by that point, as her attacker. Furthermore, Lee Peterson positively identified Ms. Myers as the individual that she witnessed running from the covered walkway into the park. The person was later identified by the police as Sandy Myers, the defendant in this morning's trial. After subduing the suspect, Officer Tucker will testify that he proceeded into the park and discovered Leslie Johnson's knapsack within 20 feet of where Sandy Myers ran out of the park. The events of August 20th, 1992 showcased a drastic violation of state law. Sandy Myers viciously attacked and robbed Leslie Johnson. As a result of her greedy and lawless actions, Ms. Myers is being charged with assault in the second degree and robbery in the second degree. You'll see throughout this trial that there is more than ample proof to show that Ms. Myers committed these heinous crimes beyond a reasonable doubt. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Is the defense ready? Daryl?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning. Your Honor, my name is Rebecca Riley, and I shall be making the opening remarks for the defense today. Allow me to introduce my co-counsels, Tyler Hammond and Sean Laughter. I'd also like to introduce the defendant, Sandy Myers. On the night of August 20th, 1992, the defendant decided to see a movie. He made plans to meet up with his friends sometime after the movie, and the defendant decided to stay until all the credits were over at the movie. He knew a friend who had worked on the movie, and he wanted to see her name. When the defendant finally left the movie, it was raining outside, and he knew that he was going to be late meeting his friends due to the fact that he had stayed to see the credits. And not wanting to walk through the pouring rain and still risk being late to meet his friends, my client began to run through the park as a means of a shortcut to the restaurant and to try and minimize his time out in the rain. However, his friends weren't there. He decided to run through the park again and try another popular, well-known hangout, and perhaps they decided to go there instead. Sandy Myers never succeeded in finding his friends. However, when he emerged from the park, he found a shotgun pointed at his face and a bright searchlight that he was completely surprised by. This case comes down to 3 elements: proximity, precipitation, and the very real possibility that vague descriptions have landed the wrong man in court today. I am confident that these doubts will remain strong throughout the trial and will show it is impossible to prove my client guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Our first witness will will be Sandy Myers. Sandy Myers will testify that he is employed at Wagner's Playland and that he's a hard-working man who has never had a complaint against him. And after a hard day's work, Sandy was simply looking to relax with his friends and catch a movie. He will testify about his plans that night, why he was running through the park. He will be able to account for all of his actions that night, why he was there, when, and why he did everything. And he will leave no doubt as to what he did that night. Sandy will show that he was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. And our second witness will be Kim Tracy. Kim Tracy is the manager of the Palace Theater, which is where the movie was playing that Sandy Myers attended. Kim will testify that he is aware there was only one person who stayed to watch the credits till the end of the same movie that Sandy Myers attended. Kim Tracy's testimony will reinforce Sandy Myers' story of what he did that night, and why he was out that late, and what he had planned to do. Our final witness that we will call will be Terry O'Brien. Terry O'Brien owns Wagner's Playland, which is the place of Sandy Myers' employment. Mr. O'Brien will testify that he has never had any problems with Sandy, that Sandy is indeed a hardworking individual who is always available to come in for people when they're out. In conclusion, all we're asking for here today is simple. We are not seeking an apology for the wrongful accusations set onto my client. We're merely asking that you let an innocent man go free.
Thank you. The prosecution ready with